What is up, guys, and welcome to the race that you have all been waiting for, the return of Monoposto. And today we are starting Season 6. The big F1 2026 season is finally here, and we are racing in Australia for 14 laps of Albert Park for the very first Grand Prix in this new era. I've been so excited for the start of this season for such a long time, especially after what we've seen after testing. I'll guarantee that F1 26 is not going to disappoint, and I know I say this every season, but this year, more than any other, I truly mean it. This could be one of the best career mode seasons ever. Thank you to all of you who have attended this live premiere. Be sure to leave your comments in the chat as the race is unfolding, but word of warning, this is honestly one of the most insane races you are ever going to witness. With that said, let's see the starting grid for the first time in 2026. And of all people, Lando Norris has snatched pole in an absolutely incredible all Audi front row in their first ever F1 start. Alonso third, Stroll only P7 in the Aston Martin, but look how close the grid is. The entire grid is covered by under a second. I'm only in P9 and I'm just over 3/10 off pole. It is so close. There are so many teams, and one small mistake can cost so many places. This season is going to be brutal as we go through the full rundown of the grid in the very first time in 2026. Doesn't it look absolutely fantastic? The time is almost here. I've worked really hard on the ideas for this season and combining all the mods as well, and here we are. This is our car. So yeah, as I was saying, I was only just over a 10th behind Ocon, my teammate, who's in 4th. Esteban did very well, and I just didn't quite get the lap right, and it cost me. So we're starting in P9. We're going to start on the soft tyres due to the improved tyre wear, and now's the moment you've all been waiting for. We are revving up to 5 red lights for a new era of Formula 1. We are underway for F1 in 2026 at the Australian Grand Prix, and it's been a pretty good start, immediately going up into ERS. Ocon trying to make moves at the front as well now as we head in towards turn 1, trying to go around the outside of Piastri, but Albon comes flying in. The Mercedes driver's gone into the wall, though he is actually still in P10. It looks like the Thai Brit doesn't look like he's got any damage somehow from that, because he's still in the race directly behind me. Meanwhile now, down at turn number 3, I think, I'm going to send it on Oscar Piastri and get myself up into P8. So using the soft compound tyre to get off the line has worked. The Australian driver tries to have a look round the outside, but I slammed the door closed on the new papaya and silver McLaren. Don't forget, they were chrome and red Vodafone last year. They're still keeping the chrome, but they've gone back to orange that they wore for so many years, as I'm now just going to settle down into the race. But already, look at the straight line speed of this car. How quickly we're gaining on Stroll and Russell, though the Canadian driver's going to go for the move on the Mercedes, and I'm just going to back down and be patient and wait for my time to try and pass them. Stroll has now got in front as we move a few corners later. My old teammate, I'm going to try go round the outside here, make sure I try and leave enough space, but I bounce over the curb, and Russell's gone, and we've got a virtual safety car immediately. George Russell's opening start to the year has completely gone out of the window, and he is out at the end of the first lap. Let's get a quick replay. Oh, I'm not sure if there's anything I could have done there. Unfortunately, I was just forced sort of onto the curb. I had to try and make sure I left enough space, but I think I took too much curb and then bounced over it. Let me know in the comments in the chat if you think that was on me, if you think that was on George, or a racing incident. I'm always open to hear your guys' interpretation of these incidents, as now I go a little bit deep there as we're coming through the final sector, just showing how much I'm trying to push to catch up to Lance Stroll. But we know the speed of the Aston Martin in this season, and again another wide moment. It's so difficult to try and get closer to these guys because their pace is so good. Stroll set the fastest lap of 1:18.3, and I'm now looking in the mirror at Oscar Piastri, who's trying to catch up to me. But also notice the top speed of these cars is a lot slower this year. As I mentioned in pre-season, we're maxing out at just under 300 kilometers per hour, which is a lot slower than last year. Although now at the end of lap 4, I am actually going to come into the pits. Now, the tyres could go a bit longer, as you can clearly see, but I'm going to be aggressive today. I'm going to come in for an undercut, and that's an unsafe release from McLaren, surely. Pierre Gasly, the defending world champion, has just completely been released into my path, as I now have to locate my new pit garage, and this is my first ever pit stop from the Alpine team. I'm going on to the hards, because I want to try one stop. I only qualified in P9, and I actually really rate the race pace of our car. It looks absolutely brilliant. You guys have already seen some glimpses of it. As you know, with the straight line speed that we've got, I've really set the car up quite aggressively, so we're going to be really quick in the straights, and I think that's possibly why I'm a little bit more vulnerable in the corners. Anyway, we come out in P17. I'm now trying to generate a little bit of tyre temperature, although I completely messed the corner up there, and now the Repsol Haas of Felipe Drugovich is going to send it on the inside, and he's crashed, and we've got a safety car, and I've got a penalty as well. Oh my word, huge drama. We're already involved in a collision in the opening race. But unfortunately, the safety car is at the worst time possible. I've just made my pit stop, so that means I'm going to lose out big time here. Let's have a look at the replay. Oh, Drugovich just stuck his nose in at a place where it wasn't really wanted. Oh, should I take blame for that? I don't know. I'll let you guys be the judge. I think, to be honest, he shouldn't really have gone for that. He was miles back. But did I close the door? Did I turn in too early? I don't know. Let me know, as I say. And don't worry, that won't be the last one. As the safety car limiter was released, turns out I'm in P13 behind Yuki Tsunoda and Jehan Daruvula. So Tsunoda, of course, driving now for the Red Bull outfit due to the departure of Lando Norris, who I'm sure is absolutely loving life in that Audi. As we move on, we're now going to get a message from the race director saying lapped cars will overtake. It is in fact Lance Stroll who's leading the race, Ocon, my teammate, in second, and then a 3-4 for Audi, so hopefully Esteban can try and bring home some solid points for the team. Meanwhile, despite me trying to get to the end, I still think it'll be a tough ask to try and get some decent points today, because don't forget the tyre wear will be pretty bad by the end of the race. I've still got half the race to do on these hard tyres as we are getting ready to go racing once again in Albert Park. There is half of the race remaining. Let's see what we can do and see if we can exploit some of this Alpine race pace and use it in our favour. We are back underway once again at the Australian Grand Prix, and immediately open to ERS. Look at the straight line speed. We're going to go past Tsunoda and past Jehan Daruvula at turn 1. Wow, but the Indian driver does very well to keep his nose in, to be fair. The Repsol Haas driver keeps the position, and now watch the lag as we head in towards the end of the first sector. This is not in shot, this was lagging as I was recording, which makes it really difficult for me to drive. Tsunoda's trying to put pressure on, and then all of a sudden it's the Ferrari who sends it of Mick Schumacher. The German driver really getting his nose in there, and now I'm going to be under pressure from Charles Leclerc as well. The man who's got a 5-second penalty, Leclerc, forces me wide. There goes Joe, Leclerc comes back onto the line, and there's another safety car. What is going on in Albert Park this afternoon? Charles Leclerc has been so reckless, and he's now got himself 10 seconds worth of penalties. Here's the replay. He comes absolutely flying in there way too aggressively, and then Zhou goes around the outside, and Leclerc just comes back on the track like a torpedo, wipes the Chinese driver out of the race. That's worthy of at least a 5-second penalty, and unfortunately for the Alfa Romeo Penske, he becomes the third retirement of the afternoon, although the safety car stayed out all the way to the end of lap 11. So now we've only got 3 laps to go, and I'll certainly be able to make it to the end, but unfortunately, so will everybody else. Don't forget, I have that potentially unfair penalty still against my name, as we get ready to go back to green flag running once again, all the guys at the front are on mediums. There's a Ford in 6th, Nick De Vries, who's on the hard tyres and is returned to Formula 1. I'm going to be a little bit more cautious on the restart this time. But unfortunately, it's going to be really tough for me to get points now, because not only have I got to make all these overtakes, I've then got to pull out 5 seconds. And I really don't think there's going to be any pit stops in the remainder of this Grand Prix. I think a couple of guys did pit under the safety car for some reason. One of them was Lance Stroll, but I've just been wiped out again. What is going on here? I just feel like a cannonball. There's Pourchaire and Tsunoda crashing as well. I can't go anywhere. There's now massive floor damage to my car, and I can't do a flick spin. And any hopes I just had of trying to get points have just completely gone down the toilet. And that is the end of our Australian Grand Prix. We're very lucky to still be in the race. There's critical rear wing damage. There's floor damage. Somehow my front wing is still fully intact, but I've lost all my battery. Tsunoda's got a 5-second penalty now himself. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's carnage. Biblical scenes here in Melbourne. Although we move on to lap 13, this is the Williams of Jake Hughes. I think he's got a puncture on his return to the Formula 1 grid. He was with McLaren for the first half of last season, was dropped for the second half of the season, but now back with Williams, and that's not the way he'd want to start his return to the grid with a puncture. He's going to be way down in last position as I then make an easy move on the Japanese driver again. But the man of the hour is my teammate Esteban Ocon. Has controlled this race really well as he comes out of the final corner. This will be his second career victory and a fantastic way for Alpine to open the season as he wins the Australian Grand Prix. Esteban Ocon, our teammate, delivers when it matters most for the team. Audi had a front row lockout, but they cannot convert either driver to the top step, and ultimately my teammate had the pace to win. Although a lot of race was disrupted by the safety car, he delivered when it mattered.
Yes, guys. Well done, mate. Wow. Okay, remind us to drink, please. That was awesome. Yeah.
So good to hear Esteban so happy on the radio there. He's driven a fantastic race. Well done to him. Although for me, well, it's been a really disappointing Grand Prix. Not the way I wanted to start the season, but to be honest, none of it was my fault, really. I think I just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, if you look at my sector splits though, the damage has actually been fine. I've still been able to drive really well, and the pace of the car is good. You saw me just pick off poor Chair, and if I'd had an extra lap, I'd have picked off Hauger and Verstappen as well. But it's only P17 in the opening race, not the start to the season that I wanted. Although that last lap, I was only a tenth slower than Stroll's fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So the signs are promising. We've got the pace. We just had rotten luck today. And don't worry, I'll be coming all guns blazing for the Bahrain Grand Prix next time out. So stay tuned for that. But that is the end of the Australian Grand Prix. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And now we take a breath, because that was one hell of a chaotic race. I'll be shocked if we see another race quite like that all season. There's the podium. Sainz finishes second and Norris third, so Audi will be leading the constructors. Still, they can't complain with that. That's a fantastic way to kick off their Formula 1 career, and I'm sure their two highly talented drivers will equally be delighted with finishing on the podium. One team who will not be feeling so pleased today is Aston Martin. 1-2 in testing with arguably the best car. Alonso didn't even get on the podium, and Stroll missed out on points entirely. They bottled the strategy when they brought him into the pits from the race lead in that second safety car. Wow, I can't believe we had two safety cars and a virtual. I don't know when we'll get such a chaotic race like that again. Here's the final results from the Australian Grand Prix. Piastri points in his home race, and Nick De Vries for Ford hangs on to get a really valuable point. I'm sure they'll be clapping him on the back. That's a great drive from the Dutchman. But that's it for the first episode of the new season. It was a banger, as I'm sure the rest of the season will be. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Goodbye.